The plan was perfect, or so they thought. The five of them had spent months laying the groundwork. They'd studied the cryptocurrency bank's security protocols, mapped out its server hubs, and even bribed a low-level technician to plant malware. They thought they'd accounted for everything, but there was one thing they didn't account for: the bank's owner. Rain slicked the pavement outside as they pulled their van into position. Inside the vehicle, the crew was silent, focused. The leader, a wiry man named Rafe, reviewed the plan one last time on his holo tablet. The target was Grid Vault, a decentralized cryptocurrency institution known for its state-of-the-art security. But Rafe had done his homework. He'd cracked tougher systems before, or so he claimed. Everyone clear on their roles? Rafe asked, his voice low and steady. The others nodded. There was Lena, the tech specialist, Gage, the muscle, Vic, the driver, and Mara, their inside woman. Each of them had their part to play, and each believed this job would set them up for life. The countdown began. At exactly 2:15 a.m., Lena activated the malware Mara had planted earlier in the week. It was supposed to disable the bank's primary security systems for a full 30 minutes, enough time to breach the server room, access the cold wallets, and transfer the cryptocurrency to untraceable accounts. Everything started smoothly. The cameras flickered and went dark. The automated sentries powered down, and the locks on the server room doors disengaged. Gage and Rafe moved swiftly, carrying duffel bags loaded with cutting-edge equipment. Lena stayed in the van, monitoring the operation through her deck, while Vic kept the engine running. They breached the server room without a hitch. Rows of blinking lights and humming machines greeted them. Rafe's eyes gleamed as he plugged in his rig and began siphoning the digital wealth into their offshore wallets. That's when things went wrong. The lights flickered back on. What the hell? Lena's voice crackled through Rafe's comms. The malware's been overridden. Someone's in the system. Before Rafe could respond, the doors slammed shut behind them with a hiss. Red lights bathed the server room, and a voice echoed from the speakers. It was calm, composed, and distinctly amused. "You've made a mistake," the voice said. "Grid Vault isn't just a bank. It's my bank, and you're not walking out of here with a single Satoshi." Rafe's stomach dropped. He'd heard rumors about the enigmatic founder of Grid Vault, a reclusive tech genius known only as Calder. No one had ever seen his face, but his reputation as a paranoid control freak was legendary. And now, they were trapped in his playground. "We need to get out," Gage growled, slamming his fist against the locked door. "Working on it," Lena said, her fingers flying across her deck. "He's locked me out of the system. I'll need time." "Time we don't have," Rafe snapped. He tried to override the locks manually, but the controls were unresponsive. Calder had taken over everything. "Did you really think I'd let you waltz in and steal from me?" Calder's voice taunted them. "You've underestimated me. But don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to reflect on your poor decisions." Suddenly, the room filled with the sound of whirring motors. Small drones emerged from hidden compartments in the walls, their cameras trained on the intruders. One of them fired a warning shot, a small but precise beam that melted a corner of Rafe's rig. "This is bad," Lena muttered. "Really bad." Rafe knew she was right. The job was spiraling out of control, and they had no way to fight back against Calder's omnipresent surveillance and automated defenses. Still, he refused to give up. "Lena, focus on shutting down the drones," he ordered. "Gage, help me block the doors. We need to buy her time." Gage nodded, grabbing a heavy server rack and pushing it against the entrance. Meanwhile, Lena tried to hack into the drone's control system, sweat beading on her forehead. Come on," she muttered. The drones circled closer, their weapons primed. Calder's voice returned, cold and unyielding. "This isn't a game, Rafe. You think you're clever, but you're not the first to try this, and you won't be the last to fail." Outside, Vic was panicking. The van's engine idled, but the streets were eerily quiet. She tried to reach the others on comms, but all she got was static. Then her holo display lit up with a message: "Leave now or face the consequences." She hesitated, gripping the wheel tightly. Loyalty to the crew warred with her survival instincts. Before she could decide, the van's controls locked up. The engine died, and a series of mechanical clamps descended from above, locking the vehicle in place. Inside the bank, Lena finally broke through one of Calder's firewalls. The drones faltered, their movements becoming erratic. "I've got a back door," Lena shouted. "Good," Rafe said. "Now get us out of here." But before she could disable the locks, the entire system went dark. The drones powered down, the lights shut off, and the red glow disappeared. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Calder's voice returned, quieter this time, almost contemplative. "You're not going anywhere," he said. "I've decided on a more productive punishment." The locks hissed open, and the crew stumbled out into the corridor. Relief was short-lived as Calder's voice continued. "Each of you has augmentations, marvelous technology that enhances your abilities. Unfortunately for you, those augments now belong to me. You'll find they've been modified. For the next 7 years, your movements, decisions, and even your thoughts will be encouraged by my algorithms." Rafe froze, checking his neural interface. A glowing red indicator flashed in his vision. He wasn't in control anymore. "What did you do to us?" he shouted. Calder's laugh was soft, almost condescending. "Think of it as a leash. You'll perform tasks for Grid Vault, some simple, some complex, but all necessary. Refuse and your augments will remind you who's in charge. Complete your terms and you'll be free. Better people even. Consider it rehabilitation." Sittas. First task was deceptively simple, repairing minor breaches in Grid Vault's defenses. But as the days stretched into weeks, the assignments grew more complicated. Mara was tasked with designing marketing algorithms to bolster the bank's public image, while Vic's driving skills were used to test autonomous vehicles for Grid Vault's courier fleet. Rafe and Lena, the most skilled, were given the hardest jobs, creating impenetrable security systems and designing traps for would-be intruders. Every misstep was met with a jolt from their augmentations, not painful enough to debilitate, but enough to remind them of Calder's control. Gage, meanwhile, found himself in charge of physical maintenance, using his enhanced strength to repair and upgrade the facility's infrastructure. "It's not just servitude," Lena muttered one day as they worked in the server room. "He's training us, making us better at what we already do." Rafe snorted. "If this is his idea of training, I'd rather take my chances on the outside." But even Rafe had to admit there was truth in Lena's words. Despite his defiance, the challenges forced him to innovate, think faster, and adapt in ways he hadn't before. Calder wasn't just punishing them, he was refining them. By the 5th year, the crew's progress was undeniable. Calder's systems monitored everything, and he acknowledged their growth in his own way. "You're proving surprisingly resourceful," he told them. "Perhaps there's hope for you yet." Still, the blockchain contract loomed over them. The countdown timer in their HUDs ticked on, a constant reminder of their servitude. Yet something had shifted. The crew began to talk less about escape, and more about what came next. "I'm not going back to what I was," Mara said one night, her voice firm. "We've done more here than we ever did as thieves. Maybe it's time we put those skills to better use." Lena nodded but remained skeptical. "Even if we wanted to, who's going to trust a bunch of ex-criminals?" "That's the beauty of it," Mara replied. "We've rebuilt systems, designed better ones, and learned from the best. We don't need trust, we have skill." Rafe was less optimistic. "Calder's made us better, sure. But let's not pretend it was out of kindness. We're tools to him, nothing more." Lena glanced at her countdown timer, her expression unreadable. "Maybe, but tools can build things, or break them. The question is, what do we want to do when we're free?" The 7th year arrived faster than they'd expected. On the final day of their servitude, Calder's voice spoke to them one last time. "Congratulations," he said. "Your debt is paid. The blockchain contract is complete, and your augments are now fully under your control. Consider this a second chance. Use it wisely." As the countdown hit 0, the oppressive weight of their neural chips lifted. For the first time in years, their thoughts were truly their own. But Calder wasn't done. As the crew prepared to leave, a final message appeared in their HUDs. "Bonus contract. Completed." Confused, they looked at one another as Calder's voice returned. For exceeding expectations, he said, you've each been granted a bonus. Wallet. Consider it a gesture of goodwill, and an incentive to keep your newfound skills pointed in the right direction. The bonus wallets appeared in their HUDs, loaded with cryptocurrency beyond what they had tried to steal all those years ago. It wasn't just wealth, it was a fortune. Rafe blinked, stunned. Why? He asked aloud, but there was no response, as the crew stepped out of Gridvault's headquarters into the neon-lit city. They realized they'd been given more than freedom. They had a clean slate and a second chance to choose who they wanted to be.